Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by Stakes. We are talking a bit about South Carolina's loss to Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl, looking ahead a bit for Carolina football. Like maybe this is a good place to start. I know opt-outs hit both teams, but sometimes teams hit a breaking point with players missing. Marshawn Lloyd's been out for a while. Of course, he didn't play in this game.
Transferred.
Transferred. A couple other weapons in the passing game, not with the Gamecocks. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to Carolina here, but sometimes the scores transcended the underlying stats. Carolina got a lot of stuff done on special teams this year. Carolina just got bitten by their own game in that regard for at least one play in that one. Did all those things just kind of add up and maybe cause the dam to burst on this one a bit?
Here's the deal. Bowl games, we always say, produce some of the most wild results that, you can kind of think of. I mean, think about the way this game kind of starts. South Carolina's up 2 touchdowns with about 5 minutes left in the second quarter. And, got off to a really strong start and things are just kind of clicking. And then it's like from there, the momentum just kind of reverses. And I mean, again, it's a tie game with it was a really good game. Like this will wind up being one of the better bowl games of the season, I would think. But they wind up fighting back. They tie it up on the an incredible play. I don't know if you, I assume you watched some of this, but the
pick six,
the interception,
100-yarder.
Yeah, the 100-yarder. I mean, with there was 8 minutes left, something like that, and that ties it up, and it's just a fun game, like just one of those bowl games that goes down to the wire. And like I said, it's just sometimes I think you just kind of give Notre Dame some credit, right? Like they had a long drive after that. When you think about momentum swings, you get a 100-yard interception return for a touchdown. You think about how much that swings the momentum because all of a sudden, South Carolina has tied the game up. But what does Notre Dame do? They take the next 6 minutes and they just, they go 80 yards and they score. And so it's kind of one of those things where I think it was just kind of, this was a game where strong start for South Carolina. Notre Dame kind of responded to the punches. South Carolina hits them with a jab. And then it's just like at the end, Notre Dame just kind of delivers, the final blow there on that drive. And so I think I don't know that you really take a lot of disappointment away from this from South Carolina, other than the fact that they lost the game, because I still feel like they did a lot of good things here. I think you just kind of give Notre Dame some credit in that they had a very strong drive to finish the game. They managed to rally, and yeah, like I think that's kind of it, right? Because I mean, look at the defense. South Carolina had 3 interceptions. So I think that's it to me. Is I don't know that we always say bowl game results can be meaningless just from a win-loss standpoint. I don't want to say this is meaningless, but I still think if you're South Carolina, you come out of this feeling pretty good about where you're at as a program.
Yeah.
Because I still think there's a lot of things that they, and it's like we talk about the Beamer ball, right? And sometimes we're half joking about that, but in all seriousness, I mean, it's like it's a Beamer game where you have a 100-yard interception return for a touchdown, right? It's just those kind of things that you just kind of always look at. And I don't know. I mean, they had 2 of them, didn't they? That's right. Didn't they have? They had 2.
Well, I was going to say, what are the odds that any
returns.
team
Yes.
loses
I forgot about the other one.
loses a game in which it has 2 pick sixes?
Yes, there you go.
That is not something that happens very often.
I was going to say that one was when that was first quarter, right? Yeah, that was the end of the first quarter.
Or second.
Yeah, that's right. It was Smith. Smith had the 47-yarder. Yeah, here it is. I was trying to remember when that was in the context of the game, but yeah, that was early. So, yeah, I mean, I still have a lot of good things to say about South Carolina even though they lost the game.
Well, look, I think the culture from afar, I could be wrong, but it looks like a good culture. And we just spent a lot of time talking about Tennessee. I think Josh Heupel's kind of got some of the same thing going where it's a fun place to play. And it's probably a little different at Carolina. Heupel's is just through, hey, we're going to come here and sling the ball all over the yard and play fast. And it's going to be a player-friendly. Beamer's just a fun guy to play for, it seems like. You remember the the mayonnaise bath last year and everything. You see him after games. He's very emotional. He wants to be there. I still don't see a team that's got the talent that he's probably going to have. I think on defense, I watched him a lot this year. They had Cam Smith, had some guys in the secondary that could make some plays. Had Zach Pickens up front, who was a good player. But it's not what Steve Spurrier had 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Where's the Clownies, and you had All-American corners all the time, and they just were stingy to score on. I watched them on the edges. I didn't feel like their linebackers were the fastest group around. Their edge guys weren't as good as they've had. Shane Beamer can recruit, and I think you give him a little bit more time, and you wonder, once he can bring some guys in on the defensive side of the ball, the special teams are always going to be there. I look at this as a work in progress and a program that is well ahead of schedule for where I think it should be based on the talent they've got.
Yeah, and they got some good guys defensively coming in the class for next season. That wound up being a top 20 class, I think. And yeah, they're some of the higher rated guys are on the defensive side. So I think that they'll have some help there in that regard. Now, obviously, there are young guys involved there and it may take a little time, but still you're kind of building what you feel like is the nucleus of the future, right? And I think that's the bigger point. Like you said, it's kind of getting that figured out. Now, obviously, you talk about some of the offensive pieces and such, and we'll see kind of what that looks like, I think, as a whole heading into next season too. But you do, right? Like I think I'm trying to remember what our conversation was on South Carolina coming into the season. Like I don't remember exactly what we said. I think we kind of looked at them as they were probably one of the teams that
They
we
were
were
just
like,
kind of there.
Yeah, and I think that was it. Like we were like, we don't really know where you feel like they're going to be slotted, because it's like, okay, well, you don't think they're going to be slotted up there with Georgia. You don't necessarily, and then early on in the season, right? It's like Georgia just came in and just walloped them.
Yeah.
But then that's kind of where things sort of changed a little bit. And, and that's the thing, right? Is last season when he came in, they still, like you said, they win the Mayo Bowl. And listen, anybody who can regroup from a Mayo bath and still be able to live their life in a very enthusiastic fashion, to me, should be patted on the back. But they go 7-6 last year. They're 8-5 this year. Even that, like, I feel like them getting to 8-5 this year after
Blake, let me be honest. I saw them play in person here at the end of October or
yeah,
1st of November. I just didn't think they were very good. I didn't think they'd have enough dudes. But this is 2 years in a row now. In the next breath, they beat Tennessee, which was as hot as anybody in the country.
and they also lose at
then
home to Missouri and get blown out in Florida,
yes.
right? It's
don't interrupt my narrative here, please.
It's just a weird season, yeah.
I know. You're stealing my joy here.
Just weird.
It is, but I didn't think they had the horses to beat those teams. The Clemson game was in Clemson, where Clemson had won umpteen games in a row in those circumstances. But let's not forget, this is 2 years in a row, man. And this is why I picked them to beat Notre Dame. I'm like, there's just something about them that you put all the stuff on paper and throw it out the window, because it almost some days doesn't apply to them. This is a team last year that won with 4 guys playing quarterback, none of whom were any good, and came out with more wins than losses. Again, I like what he's doing. They don't have the guys I think they're going to have, and I'm pretty bullish on where they are as a program because of that.
I think for those on the outside looking in, and maybe South Carolina fans feel a little bit differently, and I understand, because you're maybe closer to the program, you have that confidence that they're going to do it. But I think it's fair to say, like, they've overachieved now 2 years in a row, and in terms of maybe the full body of work, right? Because like I said, we could not have thought that they were going to beat 2 top 10 teams in a row in Tennessee, the way they beat Tennessee, and then to turn around and win at Clemson.
Yeah.
That in and of itself for South Carolina fans is a successful season, maybe, just because, again, you've beaten 2 huge rivals and you knock both out of the college football playoff. Like, that doesn't get much sweeter than that. But yes, you are talking about a team that did have some ups and downs and had some head scratching results at times. But yeah, it's just kind of I mean, I don't know how you don't feel like your program is in a good spot when, again, I think most people thought they overachieved last year to get to 7 wins. Maybe, you could have made the case they get to 8 wins this year, but I think it's how they got to those 8, especially, as we said, the final 2 games of the regular season that feel a little bit more special and a little bit more impactful, than maybe if you had just beaten, Vanderbilt or Missouri, which not a knock on those two, but had if you just had won those 2 to end the season, it's a little bit different than it is based on beating a 2 top 10 Tennessee and Clemson team. So I think, yeah, all that combined, I think you have confidence in your coach that even if you look on the other side and feel like, oh man, that team's got a lot more 5-star guys and that team's got a lot more of this or
Yeah.
that, you feel like your coach is going to put you in a position to win these games. And I think that's all you can ask for right now for the state of South Carolina's football program. Is I don't think your expectation this very second is to be the next Georgia necessarily. Um, but if you can keep yourself in that conversation in what is becoming, let's face it, right? I mean, the SEC East was a laughing stock for years.
Hmm.
I mean, think about that theme, right? Every year we're like, my goodness, the East is just
It feels like the
how did
East is kind of caught up.
I say the East now is look what Georgia's doing. Like Tennessee's back. South Carolina, like we said, is headed in the right direction without question. Florida, not quite there yet to get back to where they want to be, probably. Um, Missouri, what's the right word for
Who
Missouri?
knows?
Like it's respectable, mate. Like I don't know, and maybe
Respectable. That's
yeah,
a good way
like
to put it.
I think that's it. Like they weren't a team this year, as we said. They played some close games. They weren't a team you're just going to roll over, in every game. That wasn't going to happen. Kentucky, of course, they've look at what Stoops has done there. So like the East, given what South Carolina's done, given what Tennessee's done, yeah, I mean it's gotten better, and so I think that's it. Is if you can kind of keep yourself in that conversation, which now South Carolina's done in back-to-back seasons, I think there's something to that because not everybody can beat Georgia, not everybody can beat Alabama, and I'm not like I'm not saying South Carolina has to play second fiddle to either, but when you consider where you're coming from, where the program was to where it is now, after an 8-5 season, where you finished the way they did, and yes, maybe you're a little disappointed in losing the Notre Dame game, but I still think overall you got to feel pretty good about where things are.
Before we look at the schedule next year, a quick word from our presenting sponsor, Stakes. Predict sports better than the crowd for a chance to win NFTs. With Stakes, players can submit their sports predictions against friends, other fans, and influencers forever. Don't let your sports genius go overlooked. Join Stakes and have the best predictions captured in the moment. Head to playwithstakes.com/14. User invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. Do you have next year's schedule in front of you?
I do. I always have that on tap here.
Of course you do.
They open the season against North Carolina. That'll be fun, I would think.
Hmm.
They got Furman after that. They're at now. Here comes some issues coming to play. Of course, it's the rotation, right? So they're at Georgia, home against Mississippi State, at Tennessee. So they get the double
Ooh.
whammy of going on the road to Georgia and Tennessee, which is never ideal. But they got Florida at home. They're at Missouri, at A&M, home against Jacksonville State. They don't play a road game after October 28th. Home against Jacksonville State, home against Vanderbilt, home against Kentucky, home against Clemson. So that's nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in that regard, who knows with A&M, right? Like, you think they'll be better, but I don't know. Who knows? It's not an easy schedule.
Feels like another bowl. At a
yeah,
minimum.
I think they can certainly get to a bowl. That North Carolina game should be fun to start the season off. Yeah, I mean, they'll be the underdogs in Georgia and Tennessee games probably, but beyond that, I don't. Yeah, there's not another game on their schedule that I. And I'm not saying they can't win, one of those if all comes together nicely, but I don't. Outside of those 2 games, I think every other game they play is very winnable. So, yeah. So I mean, I think, like I said, I think programs head in the right direction, and I don't know how you could feel any different based on where they were several years ago, right, to where they are now.
Yeah, this season certainly doesn't make you feel any worse about the direction of the program under any circumstances.
Yeah,
That's an understatement, but
yeah, I mean, look, just quickly, again, sometimes it all runs together, right? And you just forget. But like, I mean, Will Muschamp's last 2 years, they were 4-8 and what 2-8.
Yeah.
So, you know,
That
I
was a
mean, it's
bad 2-8 from what I recall.
yeah, and so I mean, and the highest peak they reached was they were ranked 24th at one point. That was the 2018 season. Um, they had one bowl win during that stretch. They won the Outback Bowl where they went 9-4 and 17 in 2017. But really, everything else was just kind of lackluster, right? But I feel like even if you look at just the records, like 7-6 last year, 8-5 this year, the 8-5 is not just looking at the 8-5. It's the 8-5 with a blowout victory to knock Tennessee out of the college football playoff. And it's 8-5 with a victory at Clemson to knock Clemson out of the college football playoff.
Yes.
Like, to me, those are significant. And I think you got to go a little bit deeper with that. That's why I think because let's face it, the rivalry games matter. Like they matter big time. And it's one game or two games in this instance, but to do it the way they did it, yeah, like I said, maybe you're a little disappointed you lose the Gator Bowl, but the bigger picture, I think they're in a good spot.
Well, one more thing if you want to go back to last year. Remember they had their issues with quarterbacks. They were going nowhere late in the season, pulled out just enough wins to go to the bowl and get the mail bath. And if you're telling me, okay, they lose all these quarterbacks who weren't very good to begin with, and the path is going to be to a bowl game, what's that look like? I said, well, they've got Kevin Harris, who's one of the probably two best backs in the league coming into 2021. Well, how'd that work out? Harris, from what I recall, and don't kill me if I'm wrong on this, Carolina fans, you know better than I do, but I think he got banged up or hurt either in camp or in one of their first games or two. And just, I think they said the right things. That kid obviously was never the same back after that. And so, like, you lose your best player, you don't have a quarterback, everything's against you, you get to a bowl game anyway. To end the season the way they did and the way that you pointed out to me, just again, sometimes I don't know that like you could thread the needle that they threaded at times with all the special teams touchdowns and turnovers, and like it was an odd way to put it together. But the bottom line is he put it together, despite a lot of things that could have collapsed it. And here they are with 2 winning seasons in 2 years, coming off the circumstances that you pointed out where they had not won a lot of games, and that's why you have confidence.
It was still kind of an up and down season, but the highs were higher than the lows.
Yes,
were
that's a good way to put it.
The highs were, to me, like I said, way more significant than the lows. Even if, that Florida game, you might look at it and say, "Ooh, that was a low point." But, it's how you respond to that, right? And they responded with just an unbelievable performance, their best performance of the season. So I think when you look at it from that, what are you going to remember, right? Are you going to remember the highs, or you remember the lows? In this season, you're going to remember the highs and feel like, yeah, like we're headed in the right direction just based off of that, because we feel like we have a coach that in those kind of games can put us in a position, can motivate our guys enough to give us a chance to win. And I think that's and remember, let's not forget too that they had another a top 15 road win at Kentucky. I know it's a little different because Levis didn't play, but like that's also on the schedule too this season. So I think the more you look at South Carolina and the more you start to look ahead, I mean, we said it time and time again, but I don't see how you could be disappointed with just the trajectory of the program, because I think they are certainly headed in the right direction.
All right, we're going to take off because we got football to watch. It's New Year's Eve. Thank you for watching. Don't miss anything we do. The best way to do that, hit that subscribe button.
Hold on, Chris.
Hit the like button.
Only South Carolina fans are going to have the luxury of this, but we have to do it because these two games are going to be played on Saturday. Now, I know we're both picking Georgia, but have any of us made a pick on Michigan TCU? This is just for South Carolina fans.
Michigan.
Are you? I'm thinking about picking TCU. So
nope. Sorry.
We'll see. I didn't say I did. I'm just thinking about it. I mean, I hadn't placed my bets yet over at BROTHROW
I like
or
the
Stakes.
way you.
So sorry, Stakes not a betting.
Yeah. I like the way you segued that there. That's your subtle way of saying, "Hey, Chris, you forgot something."
Hey, Chris,
If you
you forgot something.
if you don't like betting $11 to win 10, then you're going to like BROTHROW, which lets you bet on all 50 states. It's not the house, so bettors have a fair chance at winning. It's the only sports betting platform that doesn't take a cut of every bet. No minimum deposit into a BROTHROW account. No minimum bets. No need to connect your bank account. Bettors pay each other directly. It's a hassle-free sign-up process that gets you in the action in seconds. I'm sitting here regretting as I'm looking at the nothing going on between Kentucky and Iowa that it didn't, because I thought about it.
Should have took the under 10.
The bet out there on Kentucky and Iowa, the under. Someone put one out on the over. I thought about it. I didn't pull the trigger.
Scoreless at the end of 1. It's going to be scoreless at the end of 4, isn't it?
But you know what? You don't have to be as dumb as I am. You can pick your moments, and when you win what you win. You don't have to pay a cut to a house somewhere. And that's my compelling pitch for BROTHROW.
Unbelievable. This game is just gonna, I don't know. We'll see.
When does Iowa think about bunting runners over?
I don't know, but I wonder, and I don't know. I probably can't find it, but I wonder what the live over/under is right now on Kentucky Iowa after a scoreless first quarter. I'm going to say that thing's gone down in the 20s.
By the way, we tried to get credentialed to this game and did not get a response. And someone at the game just sent me a screenshot, and I'll just say there's not. You can almost count them. No, it's not that bad, but I'm just saying, Music City Bowl. We would have been there to cover this thing that you've got, but
you know what? But instead, we're talking about South Carolina.
I've covered a couple Music City Bowls before.
Talking about the Gamecocks, and they're moving forward in the SEC, so that's fine. That's better, anyways. So
next year we'll beat the Music City Bowl somehow, and next year there'll probably be points scored.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
And we've hit a lull, so I think it's time to end. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button.
Beamer Ball.
Hit that like button. Got a lot of SEC basketball action. We're going to be basically previewing, I think, every single SEC game this year in conference play, not to mention NCAA tournaments and all that.
Sorry, South Carolina
thank you for watching. Yeah. I'll see the Gamecocks next week here in Nashville.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you've done that, Happy New Year. We'll see you again soon at Southeastern 14 presented by Stakes.